In our last video, we were simplifying trigonometric expressions by looking up the sines, cosines, etc. of our special angles in our chart that we've put on our plates. This time, we're going to have to do something a little bit different because while pi over 4 is in the chart, 3 pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4 are not. So here's the charts that I'm referring to. I can see that pi over 4 is just 45 degrees. So I do have that one, but the other angles, 3 pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4, are not here. So we're going to have to do these problems like we've done in the past. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this will start. So first up, they ask me just for the sine of pi over 4, which according to the chart is just square root of 2 over 2. So this first piece does not present too much of an issue for us. However, we're going to need to do those 3-step problems that we've talked about in a previous video to figure out what the sine of 3 pi over 4 is and what the sine of 5 pi over 4 is. So let's go ahead and off to the side do that. So step 1, if you recall, was to sketch the angle and find the reference angle. 3 pi over 4 gets you over here into quadrant 2 because it's just past 0.5 pi, which would be this angle up top. My reference angle then is the angle that's missing between the x-axis, this angle right here, or if you recall, we said that the reference angle, as long as the denominator is special, is just going to be, in this case, pi over 4. We can get rid of the numerator. The rest of the numerator, just look at the pi. So my reference angles for this problem are all pi over 4. Okay? So let's go ahead and find the sine of pi over 4, the reference angle. That is in the chart. In fact, we just did that. We know the sine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. However, that might be positive or negative. So here's step 3 of our 3-step problems. This is where we had to use those letters A, S, T, C. And what that tells us is what's positive in that quadrant. So because I'm in quadrant 2, where S or sine is positive, I know that this will have a positive sign or plus sign in front of that. So the sine of 3 pi over 4 is just another positive square root of 2 over 2. Okay, so we got one more piece to do, and that's the sine of 5 pi over 4. So let's take a look at this one off to the side. Again, my first step in these 3-step problems is to sketch it and find the reference angle. 5 pi over 4 is going to put you down here into quadrant 3. Okay, my reference angle, as we discussed, because my denominator is a special denominator, my reference angle is just pi over 4 again. So again, step 2, I just want to find the sine of pi over 4. Well, we've done that twice now. We know the sine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2, but because we're not in that first quadrant, we could have a positive or a negative sign for this. So since we ended up in the tangent quadrant, the third quadrant, where tangent is positive but anything else is negative, we were doing a sine, so our sine, S-I-G-N sine, is going to be negative this time. So the sine of 5 pi over 4 is a negative 2 square root of, oops, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. It's a negative square root of 2 over 2. Now notice this one had a multiplier in front of it, so I'll get that 2 times in front. Alright, so if we kind of pause for a second and look what we've done, I've gone ahead and figured out what the sine of those 3 angles were right here. So I have to simplify this. Alright, let's actually start at the back of this. Since I have a times 2 and a divide by 2, those will both just cross out and leave me with just a minus square root of 2 at the end. For these first 2 pieces, they are being added together, and they do have a common denominator. They both have a denominator of 2, so I can add the numerators together. It's fun with fractions right now. I've got one square root of 2 plus another square root of 2, which means altogether I have 2 square roots of 2 over that common denominator. Well, again, I have that times 2 and divide by 2, so those will also cross out, which means those first 2 pieces add up to just a square root of 2. That final piece was a minus square root of 2, meaning when all is said and done with this problem, I end up with just 0 for my simplified answer.